chip.
Hey man, it's $5.
I'll take it. I'm not saying I won't take it, but
That's all I had. It was all the money in my pocket, man. My wallet's empty.
all right. So I guess right now we're gonna get into one of the deepest topics we talk about here. We're gonna go and attack Joey's little classical economics paradigm and a lot of like the fundamental ideas behind it, like the rising tide lifting all the boats and everything, and the just economic growth as pretty much the modus operandi of global society now and global civilization.
This whole segment is just going to be about attacking me.
It's going to be economics. I mean, okay. I figured who else is going to defend it? Steen thinks we're going extinct. Yeah. All right. See, here's the thing, Joey. Let's let our listeners in. Joey.
I think economics is the solution, though.
Thank you, Bridgman.
I bridged Joey with the idea of humans possibly driving themselves extinct through our industrial escapades. And Joey just kind of thought the idea was preposterous. So
yeah, I did.
I guess. Really?
Yeah.
I mean, let
me just point this out because you brought up global warming, which is an issue I'm really passionate about. It's one of the biggest reasons I worked on the Obama campaign, because the costs of this.
All right, fist bump for that one in 2008.
No, 2012. Worked on the Obama campaign in 2012 because of all the things.
All right, I'll stop.
All right. Anyway, but here's the thing. He. When it comes to climate change, the costs in terms of changing where we're going to be growing crops, in terms of the number of animals that are going to go extinct, in terms of the amount of infrastructure we're going to have to redo, the heat waves that it's going to cause, the dramatic weather patterns that's going to induce. This is just stuff that we don't.
So what do you think about
playing around?
What do you think about the
collapse?
So you think human extinction is ridiculous? What about the collapse of industrial civilization?
See, that's the thing, is I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that it's going to be a collapse of civilization or the extinction of humanity.
Right.
I just think that it's going to be very costly for us, for the environment, and we should be doing a lot more to prevent this.
So what's it going to cost?
Preventing global warming is I wouldn't even put it in financial terms, because it's not just a monetary thing. It's about quality of life that becomes a cost at that point.
I understand, but you have to make it economically feasible for it to happen.
It's going to.
And here's the reality.
Feasible.
I mean,
if I may just point this out, solar panel prices are dropping dramatically. It's going to be much cheaper than the conventional stuff that we're using very soon. Wind prices are coming down. With science and innovation, we're coming up with ways to beat global warming, but we've got to get serious about it.
Okay, I'm glad you talked about science and innovation, because I think that more money needs to go into science and innovation.
That's the reason I was criticizing Obama's budget. If you guys remember when I was saying Obama's budget is BS, that is the reason why. You should at least propose more money in science. That's my biggest complaint.
All right, so we're not going to argue about the solutions, but I think we are going to argue about the reality of what might happen, what's liable to happen in the next 200 years.
All right, well, what is it in your view?
Well, I mean, we're already on track for a lot of warming. We're way on track for what the UN has, and a lot of scientists have already said is too high of a limit for to avoid catastrophe.
And that's 2 degrees Celsius.
That's 2 degrees Celsius. Now they've a lot of scientists are now saying it should really be 1.5, and we're at 0.8. I mean and here's some realities about it. For 40 years, that's how long it takes. 40 years. None of us are 40 years old. So that's how long it takes for the global warming potential of CO2 to have its full effect. So we don't see the warming from, before we were born yet. I mean, years before we were born, we still haven't seen the full global warming potential of the CO2 that was emitted then. We've emitted so much more every year. I mean, carbon emissions keep going up, and we keep talking they're going down, but then population keeps rising, demand keeps rising, demand for meat keeps rising. As this is a problem when you're talking about like free trade and bringing up the rising tide lifting all the boats. And as much as as in economic theory, class analysis of it and Marxist analysis of it, that might be there's a lot of inequality still there. But you're right, it does help bring a lot of poor people in the third world out of abject poverty and bring them into economic prosperity and industrialized society. But that comes at a huge economic or ecological cost. I mean, and so that's going to keep happening. I mean, we want all these people to keep coming out of poverty, and we're still on track for rising population for at least another 30 years, at least. And it could go way longer. So I mean. And these are all factors that you have to multiply our ecological impact by, like the number of people, in the middle class in the world.
But
and then these are all people who are going to demand more meat, which is, here's one of the things too. One of the other reasons I'm real pessimistic about global warming is because, you know, there's a recent study that came out that said basically if, you know, we've talked about this before, but one of the biggest causes of greenhouse gas emissions is, you know, livestock production.
Right.
So, and you know, as people keep, you know, coming out of poverty, they want more and more meat. They want that Western, you know, lifestyle. So, you know, a recent study came out that said that basically we can't meet our global warming, you know, our carbon emission thresholds without, you know, cutting back on our meat, you know, consumption, which is going to rise realistically. It's rising, like who knows how long, but I mean, we're starting to fight a little bit because of awareness about, you know, animal rights and the ecological impact and the cost of it, because it's, you know, obviously there is a cost, but it's so subsidized because of plutocracy.
Well, I'd like to make a point.
But I mean, I got more to say, Joey, but come on, say something, dude, because I feel like I've been going off. And
I was going to say something, but you kept going, so... But and now Brian wants to say something. I feel bad about cutting you off, Brian.
I want to talk about...
I just want some optimism. I'm saying, just whoever's got some optimism.
I'll
give me a reason other than the same old bullshit. Oh, you know, solar's going down. All this. Give me a real reason. I mean, a larger reason, because I'm not just looking at...
A larger reason than what?
A larger reason to have hope for the long term. You know, sustainability of civilization.
Here's 2 reasons to have hope for the long term. First of all, the way that we're going to be growing our food, including our meat, is going to be much different in the future than it is today. It's much more likely that it's going to be an industrial thing. It'll be essentially grown. People are saying grown in labs, but that's not really what that would mean.
We have cricket burgers.
Right. Well, I hope.
See, this is always the thing. I mean, how do you? Okay, well, here's the question then. Since you're basically going straight to techno fixes, I just want to cut you off. So basically, we're gonna call these techno fixes. This is when basically you're just assuming that technology in the future is going to deal with these problems that we know we're going to face.
We're already working on these problems,
I know we're already working on them, but we don't. And I know we've already had, you know, the green revolutions. We've had GMOs and, you know, pesticides and herbicides, fertilizers developed.
Yeah.
You know, we've got all that. And that helped, you know, stave off, you know, the Malthus and, you know, Paul Ehrlich's, you know, the population bomb, you know, their predictions. But those are the only reasons. You know, your assumption is basically that we're going to keep finding techno fixes. Each time we start to reach these ecological limits and limits to our population, we're going to find some kind of technological fix that's going to allow us to just keep growing, keep economic growth going.
Well,
yeah, basically.
Joey's wrong.
I mean, isn't that infinite growth?
Joey is right.
Joey is so wrong, because this world is only going to have bacteria in it in 1.3 billion years, because the sun...
Okay, let's talk about the next 200 years, dude. I mean, you know...
Yeah.
This is
I mean, that's natural extinction.
Here's the thing. It's not just techno fixes. It's that humans are inventors. We are scientists. We are innovators. And we're innovating everything all the time.
But
we're good at innovating destruction.
I mean, in civilizations, we've had civilizations collapse. Look at...
And this means that it's not just that we're trying to solve
that's
certain
We've
problems.
had civilizations
There's things that we don't even know
we have not had
that we're
a
solve.
collapse of civilization entirely.
Because we've never had a global civilization. We've never had one so connected. We've never had one. I mean, we rely on so much stuff. I mean, one disruption in the supply chain, dude, for like, what, a couple days? You know, where are we going to get food, dude? You're going to go to Kroger and all of a sudden everything's going to be empty. You're going to be like, oh, damn, that's what Scott was talking about.
This is the thing.
This shit happens.
Two points about this. Number one, life and civilization has never been proven to be sustainable. You look at any culture, Mayans, Aztecs, whatever it may be, they eventually exhaust themselves of resources or otherwise and fall into destruction.
I can give you a perfect example where one civilization that has lasted continuously.
And I'm sure it's from Africa with black people, but...
Actually, it's actually from China. China is the longest continuous civilization.
That's right.
And some of the most... Throughout history, some of the most innovative.
That's right. They've still had serious strife there.
But still, this is. I mean,
but that's different. Strife is different than extinction.
Right.
Here's what's.
And you're talking about history. You're talking about history in such a.
People are becoming less resourceful when it comes to basic human functions or needs. Like Scott mentions about going to Kroger. Mm-hmm. Back in, let's say, the 1500s, people grew food. People could build homes. People knew how to do these basic things.
Both of my parents grew up on a farm, so we don't have to go back to the 1500s.
To have food, shelter, water, the basics of life, the basics of reproduction and civilization.
I mean, and that's something that...
And dude, water wars, I mean, look, okay.
Today, it's, there can be ice on the roads and people act like it's World War III.
Right.
So do people, at least in the West, in developed nations, have the requisite skills to deal with an environment? Let's say you put a South Korea and a North Korea where they have to start farming their own food. They're not going to have any institutional support. They're not going to have the internet. They're not going to have technology. What are they going to do?
But you know what? Everybody's not a doctor and a dentist, but we still found a way to get our teeth.
But all right, let me tell you something. I wanted to drop this.
There are people who have skill sets.
Here's something. All right, I wrote a book basically when I was in my 20s, and the world ends in it. Basically, how it ends.
Is it a novel or
basically
like a non-fiction?
Okay. A fiction, but basically how it ends. Is Pakistan starts a nuclear war.
Oh.
Now look, we're talking about ecological limits, dude. I mean, I think these things all tie in together. This is part of the thing. It's not just like, one thing, like nuclear arms, climate change is over here, ISIS and theocracy are over here, corruption's over here, money and politics is over here. These things all correlate, and you gotta look at the big picture, how they work together. There's no, people don't take into account how all these things fit together, and how, the limits of food production, population, and all these things fit together. So, last week in Karachi, Pakistan, a nuclear power, with, plenty of religious zealots in it, and that's where Osama bin Laden was hiding, dude. It's no goddamn secret, and water, protests in the streets over water shortages last week. I mean, and this, climate's changing, dude, and population's going up. Oh, Pakistan.
It was both, wasn't it?
Sao Paulo last night. Yeah, I mean, Sao Paulo was yesterday.
And I'll put it.
I mean, last week Karachi. I mean, I'm telling you.
Why are they protesting about water? They're not able to access it.
Yeah, there's not enough water for all the people, dude. I mean, they got to divert a lot for agriculture, especially in Brazil.
Why don't they just buy some Dasani from Kroger? I don't understand.
And I mean, economic inequality feeds into it too. And I mean,
conflict over resources is going to be a major problem. I'll give you an example. That's another thing that could be a problem too.
The Department of Defense is ready for it. I mean, the Department of Defense thinks it's the #1 threat.
People forget that literally about 100 years ago, not that long ago, less than 100 years ago actually, we had what was called the Spanish influenza, the Spanish flu. Now, what percentage of the population of that? Can you look that up and give me the exact number?
Yeah, I don't know, but it definitely killed more people.
It's 50% of Europe, right?
It was not that high, but it
maybe
was something
20%?
like 5 to 7% of the global population was killed from Spanish flu.
I watch Walking Dead every Sunday. You don't have to remind me.
So you can look at the percentage. It depends on the country, but the point being is, we have never. I mean, maybe World War II, but even that was somewhat localized to a certain area. I'm talking about a global pandemic. We have never had something like that since 1918 with that pandemic.
3 to 5% of the world's population.
3 to 5% of the world's population. That means everywhere in the world, and higher concentrations in certain countries.
Mm-hmm. But look, all right. So, but
were the deer happy, Scott?
There was a study. What? There was a study a couple years ago. All right, I'm going to tell you one fact real quick. It's estimated that a fifth of all mammals are going to go extinct because of climate change. I'm going to drop that real quick before I go back to Pakistan. Back to Pakistan and nuclear war. Hold on, I got it.
And by the way, I think 1/5 that what you just said, that's what people should be pointing out in terms of global warming. That 1/5.
But we're also, we're also most global. Something else I want to point out too that I point out to some of the climate scientists I talk to sometimes, and like Guy McPherson, he's pretty extreme. And I disagree with his, extreme pessimism, but I don't disagree with his general thrust. And he's the scientist. He's the one who, he's got the credentials. He's the climate scientist.
I was going to say that. Go ahead, sorry.
There was a study a couple years ago that said that a small nuclear war between India and Pakistan would result in decades of global climate change. It would cool the planet, fry the ozone. It would fuck up so much crop production on the planet. We have so much, we don't have much places to go. We have tons of people. When we're at our limits, and then we get rocked by something like that, like a nuclear war, or climate change, or like anything major like that. That's going to be, a lot of people are going to die. That's going to create a lot of unrest. There's going to be a lot of violence. There's more guns in this country than people. What do you think's going to happen?
You got to look at. I would say, as irresponsible as Pakistan is, they have been responsible enough not to escalate their situation, and they actually have. Diplomatically, things have gotten better in the last decade between India and Pakistan.
Water-wise, they haven't. I mean, climate change is going to keep getting worse. That's what I'm saying. They're having water riots, last week. I mean,
but water riots,
it's very likely that's
different than nuclear winter. So see, if you were to say human race,
do you think that's? But you think climate change? I mean, the Department of Defense thinks climate change has directly to do with the stability of governments around the world. You don't?
Again, global warming is such a problem, and I don't want to be the guy in the room that's like, it's not that big of a problem. But there's still a difference between
here's the reality.
Hotter versus the Earth literally having the sun blocked out because of a nuclear winter where our stratosphere is filled.
No,
with
it's not a nuclear winter. It wouldn't be a nuclear winter between. It wouldn't be a nuclear winter technically between
India
and Pakistan. It would be a localized. localized regional nuclear
incident. A problem
incident.
that Pakistan has too is that their nukes aren't very well secured compared to other countries, and they've got over 100 of them. I mean, that really is one of the biggest.
And they got religious zealots, they got climate change, they got instability. All these things factor in, and I mean, this is why. And where are the rays of hope? Hillary Clinton, get the fuck out of here.
Pakistan has too many terrorists and not enough water.
Well, I'll briefly touch on. You talked about 5% of mammals being extinct.
One
in 5.
1 in 5. 1 in 5.
I'm gonna say if that's gonna go the same way.
Yeah, but did they say people are in that 20%? Oh hell no! All
right, look, I want to make it. I know you're all vegan and animal rights and shit, so you're probably not gonna like this idea. But it's something that has to be done, and if we're gonna stop. Species such as tigers.
Are you going to talk? No, but this isn't. No, this has got nothing to do with what we're talking about. We're talking about I told you.
We're going to Mars.
We're talking about ecological limits, dude. I mean, climate change is going to kill a lot more species. I know we can recognize 5 in a zoo, but there's going to be there's 20 going extinct today.
The zoo is going to keep the mammals alive.
We got. I know. I give a shit about animals and these specific extinction because of poaching, but poaching isn't the number one cause. Deforestation. Climate change are the leading causes.
And you're absolutely right. But if you're talking about species such as rhinos and elephants, they're number one cause of...
You just want a factory farm. Let's just cut this. You want a factory farm rhinos and elephants for their ivory. It's insane. Think of how much land that would take. Think of how much land that would take.
The size of a national park. One national park.
Will you invest in Bridgemont's business, Scott?
One national park can supply the whole world.
The
whole world.
It really won't take that much land, Scott, because you think about it.
I sort of don't believe that.
Monsanto's GMO seeds have such an incredible crop
yield. They'll start growing ivory.
Yeah.
It's clear.
And then we'll solve the problem.
We just need these Monsanto.
But I'm just saying, the World Wildlife Fund, look, the wildlife unions, they go to UN and say we need these trade embargoes on ivory and tiger balls.
We just need those genetically modified elephants from Monsanto.
Okay, let's get back to ecological limits and economics. All right, so did you see that story I posted about scientist Tim Garrett basically predicting that industrial civilization would basically cause runaway greenhouse effect because it's basically a heat engine. I mean, just the way our economy works and the way our economy demands growth, it'll just keep going. And basically, economic growth has factored with carbon emissions and pollution, and it's factored directly with it. Our entire history. I mean, if you just want to look at history,
and grow
if we want
carbon dioxide emissions,
but prove it. I mean, we haven't seen that in history yet.
Because that's what I'm pointing out. We have only gone beyond. We started using fossil fuels roughly 150 years ago. So there's no other catalyst.
I know, but how unlikely do you think it is at 6 degrees Celsius temperature rise over pre-industrial?
6?
How likely do you think it is that if we hit that industrial civilization won't collapse?
I don't think there's a chance of industrial civilization.
I mean,
collapsing.
what's the chance of?
Hasn't the Earth been that warm?
I think
before?
humanity.
The Earth has been this warm, but humanity has not. You don't understand. You guys talk we haven't. We would not be able to survive on this.
They're living in Miami and they're doing fine.
Yeah, aren't they?
I hate to be the guy that makes that argument, but I realize there's going to be heat waves, there's going to be huge problems that aren't just related to
it's not just the heat. It's not just heat, it's not just climate change, and it's not sea level rise. It's the big thing is crops. I mean, look, we're not going to, we don't have, hold on. Let me get across a couple of facts right here, just straight up facts. I posted them on Facebook, so you already saw them, so you know they're facts, so you already fact checked them, so you know they're facts. All right, we've got, 800 million people, starving to death, about to die today. We're going to have 20,000 people die today. We've had this classical economic. Hold on, let me get this. I have to get a whole. I have to get a whole idea out. I have to get this whole thing out. And so according to this classical idea of economics, rising tide's gonna lift all the boats. Tide's been rising. Some boats still just starving to death every fucking day. 20,000 of them. We still got a lot of them. And there's more people coming into the world. And here's the kicker. Here's the kicker. We have enough. We have enough food to feed all of these people.
That's right.
We have enough food today. Guess what? Some recent studies have found in the last couple of years, by 2050, we're projected to not have enough food for the number of people in the world. So imagine we've got 20,000 people starving.
Today's technology.
with today's technology. So you're banking on the third green revolution, but you don't really have any proof of it. You're just kind of you're going on faith. This is a faith-based economics. This is why economics turns into a religion, because it's based on faith.
Problems, society creates solutions to these problems.
I mean, just because, but but then the one time we don't, we die out, and we never have that problem again because we're gone.
I'm not gonna die.
I know, but I mean, you're the one in here with kids. You should be more concerned about this than any of us.
I can alter my diet a little bit. I think
here is my
here's the thing, though, Scott. When you say that these things are going down, if we don't innovate properly, people are going to suffer and starve. But that doesn't mean that we're going to go extinct.
But
Second thing I would say is I have faith in America. And I have faith, but I really do have faith in science, yes. And it's people who have had faith in science in the past and in human inventiveness in the past in the United States, that's always paid off.
2 points.
I'm just pointing that out.
First of all, our greatest minds are currently being used to create apps like Tinder instead of inventing things like electricity.
Or working on Wall Street.
That's right.
Wall Street's our greatest but so is Monsanto.
What do you have against Tinder, Steve?
Well, is it comparable to electricity and medicine?
And I mean, a lot of these. Plus, let's not talk about. I mean, you want to talk about the GMOs and the second green revolution as being proof that we can do this and all. But think of the threats posed by. Think of the threats posed by monoculture, dude. One disease comes out and wipes out a huge chunk of a certain crop. All of a sudden,
the seed bank will be a disaster.
But I mean, okay, so
I mean, there are a lot of threats posed by it, and we haven't had very long to see how.
There are other alternatives, I mean,
But you say there are alternatives, but dude, it's real quick. I mean, I remember it was a hurricane when I first moved here. It was like 4 years ago that hit some oil rigs in hit some oil rigs in Texas and fucked up a lot of the supply chain of oil. And so some trucks, a lot of gas stations. Shut up. Shut up. So for a while, though, some gas stations would be out of gas, and supply chains got broken. I remember going to Kroger. A lot of the shit was empty. Bread all gone, dude. Like water all gone. First time I've ever in my life gone to a grocery store and just seen rows of empty shelves, and it wasn't like some ghetto store. It was a big nice suburban, pretty rich area. This is down the street. This is fucking Duluth.
And did you die?
No, I didn't die, but I'm just saying, and this is just from something tiny. This is something I'm not even saying we should worry about from climate change. Did you notice?
Have to eat something
did you notice I didn't say anything about hurricanes or storms or anything when we're talking about climate change, because that's not the real problem. The real problem is the big impacts. I mean, even a couple years ago, the 1,000-year flood in Russia. There was a 1,000-year flood in Russia, and then that triggered food shortages that triggered the Arab Spring. That's shit.
Right. Here's the thing too. Going back to the pandemic.
We're already seeing
Here's the thing about Spanish flu that people don't realize, is that we never actually solved that. There is currently no solution, antidote, vaccine, whatever it may be, to prevent that. We simply got damn lucky that it went away. We never prevented it. So what I'm saying is, what happens when we face something that is a threat to 5% of the population? Let's say 5 out of every 100 people you know. About 1 out of every 10 people you know, or a little bit less than that, but still, imagine if 1 out of every 20 people you know died, in your family, whatever it may be.
I would be very upset.
Do you see how
I'd be distraught.
But
humanity would survive.
How disturbing that would be to the supply chain?
Yeah, it'd be disturbing.
That's 1 out of every 20
it would not be the end of civilization.
All right, well, here, I want to see, here's the thing. You guys get back to, this is not a non-zero sum, and also...
Everything that you mentioned earlier, all of that those are problems that we've always been facing as humanity, in terms of environmental problems,
but we've never reached the limits of the planet.
1,000 years floods, those kinds of things have been happening since the beginning of human civilization.
So we haven't dealt with
Well, here's the reality. You can't point to that flood and say that was because of what we've done to the climate, but we can't say that happened in the climate that we've changed.
I can point to around, I want to say, I think it was 500,000 years ago, there was this super volcano, Krakatoa, Indonesia.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was basically 90% of all human beings on Earth died. It was something like that. Only 200,000 people or less were left.
It was I know, it was 40,000, I think.
It was something very low like that. It was under 1 million people. And everybody alive today, all the millions of people are descendants of all 40,000 people, and there had been at least 500,000 people alive globally, and global population dropped by 75%. But
Can I just throw this in there? But it didn't kill off Neanderthal or Homo erectus because they were still off in their own places, and they didn't get killed until Homo sapien met them.
Right.
And then they died.
Until we bounced back from that.
Human survival.
Yeah, we were this close to being extinct.
But that's it's easy to say we've always survived, therefore we'll never die. But I mean, I've never died yet either. Does that mean I'm saying like, dude, I've survived everything? I've been in car crashes, dude. I've almost overdosed on drugs. I'm like, dude, I'm not gonna die. Why would I die? I survived all these obstacles.
The Charlie Sheen argument.
I want to try something a little new. I'd like to take a moment to interview Scott Brown. Scott, I'm having a little bit of a hard time understanding. It seems like you feel American society is, or global society, humanity is so out of balance and altering
ignoring the laws of physics.
Yeah,
let's put it like that.
Physics, and that we're somehow hurtling towards our own self-destruction and extinction.
Maybe not necessarily extinction, but I'm saying it's likely. I'm saying at least, industrial civilization, this economic paradigm, if we don't change it, I'm saying we could change it. But also, as an activist, I come and look at it from that angle, and I see change politically from top down as being so unfeasible that it just feeds in, like, it seals the deal on this like, pessimism, basically. Not that it's going to make me inactive.
Some sort of self-destruction or... not quite extinction, but something really bad.
It depends on what we let. Depends on what we let happen.
Likely,
really.
And you said the word likely.
On this course, impossible to avoid. I'm gonna say. On this course, if we don't change course.
Okay, if we don't change course.
If we don't see those graphs going up, start dipping down real quick, then I'm gonna say, yeah, human extinction is inevitable.
Okay, well, inevitable. Okay, then what's your timeline? By what year and by what process?
I would guess probably the next, 200-300 years.
200-300 years.
Will be gone. I mean, because I think industrial civilization will collapse first, and then there will be people subsisting like hunter-gatherer level and kind of a post.
And why in 200 to 300 years would those hunter-gatherers die out? What would be so different?
Well, here's one thing I haven't talked about yet, which is why my man we'll bring up Guy McPherson, dude, climate scientist. Way more. He knows way more about all this than any of us in this room.
Well, but he doesn't have a Wikipedia article yet. I guess I'll have to create one for him. But
no, he definitely has one. He definitely.
No, he doesn't. It was deleted in 2014 for lack of asserting relevance. But I can fix that. but
no, here's the reality. Like, we haven't started talking about positive feedback cycles.
I'm interviewing you, Scott Brown.
Okay.
In 200 to 300 years, you predict there will be
extinction of humanity.
Hunter-gatherers. So why?
We'll be at like subsistence level, like tribal. It won't be this organized society of like mass agriculture or economics. Maybe it will be.
All right,
maybe it will be, but it depends on what we do. Saying worst case scenario.
Scott, all right, worst case scenario. I'm there with you. I'm imagining in the future, for whatever reason, that in 300 years there's only hunter-gatherers, and let's say there's 1 million hunter-gatherers walking around.
Walking Dead, yeah, gotcha.
Why would they die out?
Well, because if we trigger enough warming, which worst case scenario is very likely, we're going to trigger even more warming because of positive feedback cycles, which we know we already know of 40. We keep learning of more, but all the Arctic and all the methane in the Arctic, all the methane in the Arctic Ocean, there's tons of methane buried that comes out. There's feedback cycles. There was just a study that came out that said how reindeer help soil in the Arctic and Alaska capture more carbon. So reindeer go extinct because their climate's gone. Then that's another carbon. That's another positive feedback. Basically, it's another carbon sink. Gets kicked out. We packed 1 in 4 carbon dioxide molecules in our atmosphere came from us, dude. Like, we've dramatic, and that's 24. That's 20. That's.
Well, I would like to just throw something out there, and that is that, I don't know, even in the time of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? Even Muhammad, in the time of Muhammad in Saudi Arabia, like, people were able to survive, and that was a desert, and it was so much hotter, right? Like, why even if the Earth warmed up to 4 degrees Celsius, why Why couldn't
they had land they could grow on. That's how they survived.
It was more arable back
Yeah. I mean, then they fucked it up. They fucked up a lot of it. Like, I mean, that's what happened to a lot of the Middle East is they fucked it up.
But there's still got to be
It
a
used
lot
to
of
be-
arable land.
Yeah, along the Nile. I mean, that's
future.
perpetually because they get all that good, shit coming from the river.
But there's a lot
they
of
exhausted
good
that
arable land
everywhere
in the
because I
US.
mean, if they don't have that sediment coming in to rejuvenate the soil, then they deplete all the nutrients in the soil. And
It's not too many.
we've done this before. I mean, this is. Come on, man. I'm trying to pull up. God fucking damn it.
You're an atheist.
I just want to run through, and for you guys, I just want to run through. Get the fuck out of here. All right. Ezra Klein, wrote this great article about why he's a global warming pessimist, and a lot of it gets down to basically a lot of like the fundamental psychological things and a lot of the dynamics, so I want to see what you guys got to say about it. Like, I'm just going to run through them, and then I want to see, why you guys think, these are things we shouldn't worry about. We got it covered, blah, blah,
Ezra
blah.
Klein is my people because he's the chosen people.
I'm just telling you.
Bring it, Scott Brown.
All right, first off, the poorest people on earth are the ones who are going to be worst hit by it, dude. And
True.
they don't really have a vote.
True.
They don't have influence on the political system that's going to make the big changes that are necessary.
That's why
to
we
do
need
this.
free trade in Africa.
For what? I mean, just so they can have more. Like, the thing is, we have to change our economic realities. That's basically what we. Let me finish though before we start talking about All right, one and two, we have to sacrifice now to benefit later. I mean, that's a huge thing. I mean, people don't want to do that. Even and for future generations, it's all abstract. It's in the future. It's not completely certain. These are all reasons it might not even be an existential threat. Maybe we can just go along do and vote for Hillary Clinton, and she'll just frack the hell out of the world, and everything will be gravy.
Hillary Clinton believes in sacrifice.
Steen, are you looking at?
But I'm gonna let you finish. I'm gonna let you finish.
And one, they're not really reversible. I mean, we've changed the climate. We're not going to get back below, there's that group 350. I think I talked about this before, 350.org. We're not going to get to 350 parts per million of CO2 without, some insane, carbon sequestering. We're not going to get to that for another 1,000 years because we're already at 400. Like, it's just, it's not going to be absorbed for that. So, that's the supposed safe level for the world to be at. So that's... Boom. And I mean, another one's Republican Party. This is why I was saying I think Barack Obama may have doomed humanity. Because, I mean, think about it.
What?
Blame it on the black guy.
Blame it on the black guy. All right, well, a couple years before...
What's your reasoning?
Yeah, Obama,
All right, hold up. Let me blow you. Shut up. This is why. God damn. Man, I'm trying to tell you why. And you guys just talk all this shit. I'm about to blow your minds.
I want to
In 2008... Shut up. In 2008, the McCain-Palin ticket ran a platform that included some robust cap-and-trade on carbon emissions. 2008. What changed since then? Black president came in, polarized everything. All of a sudden, he's trying to kill everything. He's a socialist, Muslim, everything. He wants to tax the hell out of you with this global warming hoax. I mean, it just totally fueled the fire. I don't think America could handle it. And America is, political, economic, cultural leader. We weren't. We weren't. Yeah, I didn't, I think, I'm just saying, the reality is a lot of Americans are, about half of America really wasn't. I mean, that's the reality. And, that I think in some ways that did set us back, as fucked up as it is. I mean,
No, I disagree.
54.
No, well then tell me why. Why do you think,
54%
what do you disagree
of
with?
Republicans deep down believe Obama is a Muslim.
That's right.
That's straight
I thought
up
that was
polling
only.
data.
I thought that was only in Texas.
No, that's
No,
straight
that's-
up polling data from yesterday.
Yes, that's straight polling. So I think Scott is partially right that a large segment of the American population has this deep dislike of this sort of
Just because
Black
things,
president.
it's just he might have some good ideas, but because they're coming from him, they will never go anywhere.
Obama's done a lot of things to get global warming, to bring down CO2 levels in the more near term. We'll see what happens in regards to Paris, but no, I think that the initial things that need to be laid out are being laid out. I'm just concerned about going into the next 10 years, whether or not we're going to be aggressive enough.
I mean, what?
And in terms of, he's using the
You said he
EPA
lowered
to bring
carbon
down
emissions in the short-
carbon
Coal.
emissions in the United States.
Coal.
He's
Coal.
using
Carbon dioxide from coal, right?
He's using
Carbon dioxide from
carbon
coal.
dioxide emissions. Yeah.
Carbon dioxide from coal.
Shit. Carbon dioxide emissions have gone down in the United States.
No, they went down during the
They
economic
went down.
crisis, but they went back up.
And he's working to bring them down by 26 to 28% by the year 2025 through the EPA regulating carbon dioxide.
That's all talk.
But that's also,
That's not just
look,
talk, that's
what
a
are you
real
not
thing.
talking
That's
about? What are you
actually
not talking about? What are you not talking about, Joey?
Other countries?
No, what are you not talking about? We already talked about it today. Clinton,
Clinton, right?
Global Shale
I
Gas
think
Initiative.
you're just vastly
Fracking.
underestimating Hillary Clinton.
No, I'm talking about fracking, dude. I'm talking about fracking.
No, but just because she's supporting natural gas,
Obama pushed a lot of fracking too. I mean, Obama was he called it the bridge fuel. I mean,
He want to be the number one.
she was in his administration pushing this across the world. I mean, this is.
Steve, what you gotta say?
I think you just
Fracking. I mean, I just read to you a study that said that the carbon footprint of natural gas is just as high from fracking is just as high as coal. And you're telling me that natural gas doesn't matter because your guy supports it.
No, well, here's the bottom line. The EPA needs to bring down carbon dioxide levels in the United States, and that is what they're doing. If Hillary Clinton is elected president, she will do that too. The main question is whether or not we can get the rest of the world to do this. And President Obama is taking the State Department and using it with full force.
Not full force. He would
to get other countries to agree to bring down the carbon dioxide levels going into the future.
Let's
see what Sting says about the climate and extinction.
Arguing about this back and forth by all means, but let's remember going back to the Nixon administration, there is no accountability for these economic and environmental promises in regards to energy and issues like that. There's never been any accountability. Richard Nixon said America would be energy independent by 1976.
Every president said it since the 50s. I put them all in a line one time in a video. I had
between
the last 8 presidents
versus just political promises.
There's no.
The EPA set out to get rid of.
Let Steen finish. Hold on.
But there's no accountability. That those rules get repealed all the time, depending on who's in office, depending on who the Secretary of Energy is, who the EPA head is, who's a part of the Congress. Those things are modified and changed all the time. I'll give you another example too. Is there's a lot of stuff that goes on that's not regulated. They found in California today, I believe Lake Kern. You can look it up. They found that this company was dumping toxic oil waste basically in these man-made lakes. Totally unregulated, totally unnoticed.
So where's the future of humanity going?
They found these massive lakes of toxic waste. So the point being is, I mean, if this type of stuff is just going to continue to go on because people are greedy. I mean, it's funny that the Simpsons movie, that movie that made a feature-length film about the Simpsons, made this point perfectly about how the people in that film, the Springfield residents, they were warned that if they continued to pollute, there would be a catastrophe.
All right.
But guess what happened? They continued to pollute, and then a catastrophe occurred. It's human nature.
All right, I'm going to wrap this up by just letting you guys know what I think the solution is. You guys can respond or not, but I think the only real long-term solution is, and as far as the bigger picture, is really just a new economic paradigm, really changing the whole way we value, like economics, basically, just changing our whole fundamental perception of economic value, and not stopping to value material goods as the only source of value, because otherwise we're just going to destroy the planet, and there's going to be eventually evolution is going to work itself out, and that idea is going to die because everyone who holds it is going to eventually kill themselves off. So, I think basically we need to start valuing things other than just possessions, money, bigger house, bigger car than your neighbor, nicer, faster, the newest smartphone, the newest all little gadget, newest little thing made by, factory workers who want to kill themselves. I mean, so.
All right,
what do you got to say?
This is my closing
I want the classical
argument. I disagree. No, I totally. This is what needs to happen. Exactly what Barack Obama is doing. Keep investing in solar, in wind, and in science, and in the meantime, use the EPA.
No, I'm good on that, and I'll
use the EPA to bring down carbon dioxide levels, and that's not just a promise; that's an actual policy. The EPA has brought down pollution levels of other things in the past, exactly as they said they were going to do. Now we're doing that with the EPA. The question is whether or not the person who comes in after Barack Obama will keep doing that and will get more aggressive going in the future, and whether or not other countries will do this as well.
Or if they'll get realistically aggressive, not just more aggressive, enough to meet the problem, and that's the problem.
I agree.
It's like you can build solar plants, you can reduce emissions, but if it's not enough, then what? I don't know. Find out.
All right.